Sometimes you find a YouTube channel that doesn't feel like it belongs on modern YouTube. It doesn't feel polished, it doesn't feel safe. It feels like something pulled from the older, stranger corners of the internet. The kind of video you click on late at night and immediately regret. The camera shakes, the rooms are dark, the houses look diseased. And somewhere inside all that rot and silence, something starts moving. That is the strange power of dark Ghost Paranormal. Very little is publicly known about the man behind the camera. You almost never see his full face. Some viewers refer to him as Dennis, so that's what we're going to call him here. He appears to investigate abandoned homes and buildings in and around Russia, often completely alone, walking into places that already feel cursed before anything paranormal even happens. And that's what makes the channel so effective. Before the doors slam, before the furniture moves, before anything is thrown across the room, the location themselves already feel wrong. These are not clean, cinematic haunted houses. They are collapsing rooms with damp walls and peeling wallpaper, broken furniture, and the feeling that something has been sitting there for decades, waiting for someone foolish enough to turn on a camera. Now, I'm not here to prove whether every piece of evidence is real or fake. That's a different video. What I want to look at is why these clips work so well as horror. Because whether you believe the footage or not, Dark Ghost Paranormal understands something a lot of ghost hunting channels don't. Fear is not just the scare. Fear is the silence before it. So let's start with one clip that perfectly captures why this channel feels so different. We begin inside of a long abandoned house that nature is slowly trying to reclaim. The walls are blue, chipped, damp, and bruised by years of neglect. The rooms are narrow. The paint looks blistered. Everything feels cold in that specific way abandoned places feel cold, like the air has been left untouched for too long. Dennis moves through the house cautiously, and almost immediately the place seems to react to him. As he begins to climb the set of stairs, the door behind him suddenly slams shut. And for a second, that would be enough. In most ghost videos, that's the moment. The door closes, the investigator panics, and the audience gets their scare. But then two chairs come flying towards the door. That's what makes this sequence so effective. It doesn't stop at the one event. It stacks them. The door shuts, the chairs move. The stairwell becomes a trap. Then as Dennis tries to process what just happened, he seems to be pushed, and his light, his only real safety net, goes out. For a moment, the entire video becomes about vulnerability. He's not just in a haunted house anymore. He's in the dark, boxed in, with something apparently controlling the space around him. Eventually he forces the door open and makes his way back into the decaying blue room, but the house is not done with him yet. The doors begin to move. They sway open and close, like they're performing for him. One door shuts, then another follows. Then, silence. Just ambient noise. Just the sound of the building breathing around him. And then, maybe, footsteps. Something seems to be coming up the stairs. And just when the tension feels like it can't stretch any further, the door beside him slams shut. That is why this clip works. It feels less like random activity and more like a warning. Not a jump scare, not a cheap trick. A warning. Leave. But Dark Ghost Paranormal doesn't just rely on haunted house chaos. Some of the scariest moments on the channel come when the activity feels deliberate. Like something inside the house is thinking. And that brings us to the next location. This one is described as a house haunted by a witch, and whether you believe that story or not, the setting does a lot of the work before anything happens. The place looks aged and rotten. The wallpaper bubbles and peels from the walls. The rooms feel heavy. It has an atmosphere of a house that was abandoned quickly and then left to become something else. Dennis begins moving through the property, taking in the rooms, listening to the silence, and then his attention shifts to the front door. The door has a large, almost medieval looking latch on it. It's the kind of detail that instantly makes the scene feel older and stranger. And then he hears something outside.
Кто там?
It doesn't sound like a normal voice. It's kind of hard to place. Somewhere between a woman and an animal. Human enough to be disturbing, but not human enough to be comforting. Then the latch starts to move. Slowly, it begins to unlock on its own. That moment is so simple, but it's deeply unsettling, because it changes the entire feeling of the scene. The door slamming shut is frightening, and furniture moving is also frightening, but a latch unlocking itself feels intentional. It feels like something trying to get in. Later, he enters what appears to be a living room. A large dresser sits within the walls. One of its drawers opens by itself. Then the door begins opening and closing violently. Over and over again. So the fear comes from the escalation. First something outside the door, then the latch, then the drawer, then the door. It feels like the house is waking up room by room. And that's where Dark Ghost Paranormal is at its best. The channel doesn't just show you a creepy place, it makes the place feel alive. But there is one clip that, to me, feels like one of the most cinematic paranormal moments on YouTube. And it happens in a house buried somewhere in the forests of Russia. By this point, we already understand the formula. Dennis is alone, the house is abandoned, the rooms are tight, rotten, and claustrophobic. Every step feels like a mistake. But this location has one detail that makes it unforgettable. Two mustard yellow curtains hanging between rooms, blocking the view into the space beyond them. It's such a simple image, but it works perfectly. Curtains are naturally unsettling in horror because they hide just enough. You know there's a room beyond them. You know something could be there. But until someone pulls them back, your imagination does the worst possible work. Dennis approaches the curtains. And then, before he can fully enter the room, a giant accordion is thrown at him. Not a small object, not something falling off of a shelf. An accordion. A large, heavy, bizarre object comes flying out from beyond the curtain and nearly hits him. It is one of those moments that feels almost too strange to be written. If this were a horror movie, you might think it was too much. But because it happens in this grimy abandoned house, through the shaky handheld camera, it becomes incredibly effective. Now, I'll be honest, I don't know how something like that would be faked. I'm not saying it couldn't be. Anything can be faked, especially now. But the reason the moment works is because it feels physical. It has weight. It has timing. It comes from a hidden space, through the curtain, directly at him. It doesn't feel like a ghostly whisper or a vague shadow in the corner. It feels like the house threw something at him because it did. And that's the difference with Dark Ghost Paranormal. The channel is not scary because it gives you perfect proof of the paranormal. It's scary because it understands atmosphere. It understands isolation. It understands that an abandoned house is already frightening before anything moves. And when something does move, it feels like the building itself has finally decided to answer back. Now, whether you believe the footage or not, Dark Ghost Paranormal has created one of the most unsettling styles in the ghost hunting space. No big team, no bright lights, no constant jokes to break the tension, just one man, one camera, and houses that look like they should have stayed forgotten. And maybe that's why the videos stick with you. Because after a while, you stop watching them like ghost hunting videos, and you start watching them like found footage. And found footage always has one terrible question hiding underneath it. If this is what the camera captured, what was standing just outside of the frame? If you enjoyed this breakdown and want more videos on the strangest, scariest, and most unsettling paranormal channels on YouTube, then please subscribe. And let me know in the comments, do you think Dark Ghost Paranormal is capturing something real? Or is this just some form of effective horror filmmaking on the platform? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.